What if everything you thought you knew about electricity was only half the story? We've all grown up hearing names like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Edison, and Nikola Tesla. We've seen their portraits in textbooks, watched the lightning bolt, diagrams, maybe even built a potato-powered light bulb in science class. But beneath the familiar sparks and simplified stories lies a hidden current, a forgotten history of electricity filled with lost experiments, eccentric geniuses, and political battles that quietly shaped our modern world. This isn't just the tale of how we lit up our homes. It's the story of how electricity redefined human life. Every light flicked on, every phone charged, every screen glowing in front of us. They're the modern echoes of a centuries-long struggle to understand and control one of nature's most powerful forces. And yet, the journey to get here was anything but smooth. In this video, we're going beyond the textbook version. We'll explore the bizarre early theories about invisible fluids and animal electricity. We'll uncover the fierce rivalries between inventors, from forgotten pioneers to those whose names were almost erased from history. You'll hear the stories of how governments, corporations, and even empires used, and sometimes misused, electricity to gain power, both literal and political. But we're not stopping there. We'll also trace how electricity's evolution ignited revolutions in industry, medicine, warfare, and communication, setting the stage for the digitally connected world we now live in. And by the end, we'll see that this isn't just a story of wires and volts. It's a story of human ambition, imagination, and control over the unseen. So if you think you already know the story of electricity, think again, because what schools never taught you might just be the most electrifying part. Long before switches, sockets, and smart grids, electricity was a mystery. A force felt but not understood. A flicker in the sky, a sting from a fish, a crackle of amber rubbed against fur. For most of human history, electricity was nature's magic trick. Spectacular, dangerous, and untouchable. In ancient times, people witnessed electrical phenomena without any concept of what they were seeing. The Greeks, for instance, observed that amber, fossilized tree resin, could attract feathers and dust when rubbed. They called it electron, the origin of our modern word. But for them, it was a curious property, not a clue to a greater power. The ancient Egyptians, meanwhile, recorded encounters with the electric catfish and Nile electric eels, animals capable of delivering a jolt to the human body. These were seen as symbols of divine power, not biological batteries. There was awe, but no framework for understanding. It wasn't until the 1600s that thinkers in Europe began treating these phenomena as something worth systematic study. One of the earliest breakthroughs came from English physician William Gilbert. In 1600, he published De Magnete, distinguishing between magnetism and what he called electric attraction. Gilbert didn't unlock electricity, but he gave it language, a crucial first step. Over the next century, fascination with electrical effects grew. Scientists began to experiment with generating static charges using simple tools like glass, rods, silk, and rotating spheres. Otto von Guericke invented the first electric generator in the 1670s, a sulfur globe that could produce static electricity when turned by hand. While crude, it was revolutionary. Humans were no longer passive observers of electricity. They could create it, even if they didn't yet understand it. By the 18th century, electricity began to move from the realm of curiosity into something with theoretical weight. In 1733, French chemist Charles Dufay proposed the existence of two types of electrical fluid, positive and negative. Around the same time, American polymath Benjamin Franklin conducted his famous kite experiment, proposing that lightning was a form of electrical discharge. While simplified in popular retellings, Franklin's work helped bridge the gap between natural and artificial electricity. Still, the field was plagued by misconceptions. Some believed electricity was a fluid, others a weightless ether. The idea of animal electricity, the belief that living beings generated electrical energy, was championed by Italian scientist Luigi Galvani in the late 1700s. His experiments with frog legs twitching under electric charge hinted at something profound, even if the theory wasn't yet complete. Galvani's rival, Alessandro Volta, disagreed. He believed the electricity came not from the frog, but from the metals used in the experiment. To prove his theory, he created the voltaic pile in 1800, the first true battery. It produced a steady flow of electric current, and for the first time in human history, electricity could be harnessed predictably and continuously. It was the moment the world shifted from sparks to streams. This Genesis phase, stretching from ancient observations to Volta's invention, set the stage for everything to come. It was a journey of myth, wonder, and trial and error. But above all, it revealed a universal truth. Even the most advanced revolutions begin with questions, not answers. By the dawn of the 19th century, electricity had moved from myth to mechanism. Thanks to Volta's invention of the battery, a steady current could now be produced, opening the door to controlled experimentation. But while the world had current, it still didn't have direction. What could electricity truly do? Who could shape it into something practical? That question lit a fire under a generation of inventors and began a new era of breakthroughs. Enter Hans Christian Ørsted, a Danish physicist with a curious mind. In 1820, Ørsted accidentally discovered that an electric current could deflect a compass needle, revealing an unseen relationship between electricity and magnetism. This wasn't just a quirk, it was a revelation. Electricity and magnetism, long considered separate forces, were suddenly bound together in a single phenomenon. The age of electromagnetism had begun. Building on Ørsted's discovery, French scientist André-Marie Ampère proposed mathematical laws to describe the interaction. His equations laid the groundwork for what we now know as electrodynamics, the science behind motors, transformers, and generators. Electricity was no longer static. It could move, push, rotate. But the biggest breakthrough came in 1831, when Michael Faraday, a bookbinder's apprentice turned scientific icon, demonstrated the first electric generator. Using a coil of wire and a rotating magnet, he proved that electricity could be generated through motion. Faraday's device, the first electromagnetic dynamo, was small and inefficient, but its importance can't be overstated. It flipped the entire electricity equation. Instead of needing a stored charge, humans could now create electric power on demand. Faraday's experiments were elegant and deeply intuitive. He lacked formal mathematical training but possessed a rare gift for visualization. His concept of lines of force would later inspire James Clerk Maxwell, who, in the 1860s, unified the laws of electricity and magnetism into a single set of elegant equations, still taught in physics today. Maxwell didn't build a device, but he gave electricity a framework, a logic, a theory of everything. With his work, electricity left the lab and entered the realm of engineering. Still, while theory advanced, practicality lagged. Early generators were noisy, unpredictable, and hard to scale. The world needed someone who could take these scattered ideas and turn them into something usable, something that could be installed in a home or factory. That someone was Thomas Edison. Edison, the self-taught American inventor, didn't discover electricity, but he did commercialize it. In 1879, after testing thousands of filament materials, Edison developed the first commercially viable incandescent light bulb. It wasn't the first bulb ever built, but it was the first that was cheap, durable, and easy to install. His bulb could burn for over 1,000 hours. a vast improvement over earlier models that failed in minutes. But Edison didn't stop there. He built entire electrical systems around the light bulb. Generators, fuses, switches, meters, and most importantly, the power grid. In 1882, he launched the world's first public power station in New York City, lighting up a square mile of Lower Manhattan. For the first time, electricity flowed not as an experiment, but as infrastructure. Yet, even Edison's vision had limitations. His system ran on direct current, DC, which struggled to transmit electricity over long distances. That challenge opened the door for a new contender, Nikola Tesla. Tesla, a Serbian-born inventor and engineer, championed alternating current, AC, a method that could send electricity across vast distances with minimal loss. Backed by industrialist George Westinghouse, Tesla's AC system soon challenged Edison's DC empire. What followed was the War of the Currents, a brutal media and legal battle between two competing visions of the electric future. Edison smeared AC as dangerous, even publicly electrocuting animals to make his point. But science sided with Tesla. AC systems proved more efficient, more scalable, and ultimately more powerful. In 1893, Tesla and Westinghouse won the contract to power the World's Fair in Chicago, a glowing spectacle that stunned millions and sealed AC's victory. Later, they harnessed the mighty Niagara Falls to generate hydroelectric power, distributing energy to Buffalo, New York, 26 miles away. This was the true spark of the electric age. Not just the bulb, but the grid. Not just invention, but distribution. The world had moved from hand-cranked dynamos to entire cities humming with light and power. Electricity was no longer a marvel. It was a necessity. Behind the glow of every lamp was a story of trial, rivalry, and unrelenting ambition. And it was only the beginning. When Niagara roared and Buffalo lit up, the world stood at the edge of something entirely new. A future powered not by coal fires or candlelight, but by an invisible force coursing through wires. Electricity had moved from a scientific marvel to a public service, but its ascent was only beginning. What followed was a century of breathtaking transformation, a chronological chain reaction of ideas, inventions, and industrial ambition that would forever change how we live, work, and connect. 90s, 1900s, AC versus DC, and the birth of the grid. The 1890s were a battleground. Edison's DC systems were already powering parts of New York, but Tesla and Westinghouse's AC infrastructure was gaining traction. While DC could only supply electricity within a mile or two of a power plant, AC had virtually unlimited range. Westinghouse began building larger generators, and transformers allowed voltage to be stepped up for transmission and stepped down for safe use, a key innovation. The tipping point came in 1893 when Tesla and Westinghouse illuminated the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. It was the first World Fair powered by electricity, dazzling over 27 million visitors. The same year, the pair won the contract to harness Niagara Falls. In 1896, when the first power reached Buffalo, Tesla's AC became the new standard, and DC quietly faded into niche use. 1910s, 1920s, electrifying the nations. As the 20th century dawned, electricity began to seep into American life. In cities, electric streetcars replaced horse-drawn carriages. Factories adopted electric motors, vastly increasing efficiency. The home, once untouched by industrial power, began to change too. Appliances like electric fans, sewing machines, and irons entered the middle-class household. General Electric and Westinghouse, once focused on industrial systems, began marketing directly to consumers. Cities sparkled with neon signs, while suburban homes installed wiring one room at a time. Still, much of rural America remained in the dark. In 1925, fewer than 10% of US farms had electricity. This imbalance would soon become a major target of public policy. 1930s. The New Deal and rural electrification. The Great Depression brought widespread suffering, but also bold reform. Under President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal, the U.S. government created the Rural Electrification Administration, REA, in 1935. Its mission, bring electricity to the forgotten corners of the country. The REA funded cooperatives to install poles, string wires, and build substations across the American countryside. By 1940, 33% of farms were electrified. By 1950, that number had climbed to 90%. The difference was revolutionary. Electric pumps replaced hand wells. Refrigeration transformed food storage. Light extended productive hours and education. Electricity had become more than a convenience. It was a democratizing force, leveling the rural-urban divide. 40s, 1950s. Wartime innovation and post-war expansion, World War II, brought an electrical arms race. Radar, code-breaking machines like the British Colossus, and early computing relied on complex electrical systems. Factories ramped up production with automation and conveyor belts powered by electric motors. After the war, the boom years began. Suburban housing exploded, each home wired and ready for the modern age. Televisions, once experimental, became household staples. Electric stoves, toasters, and washing machines became part of the American dream. Power companies expanded rapidly. High-voltage transmission lines crossed states, linking cities and creating regional power grids. By 1950, electricity wasn't just a utility. It was the lifeblood of modern civilization. 60s, 1970s. Nuclear dreams and environmental doubts. The 1960s ushered in a new era, nuclear power. Promising nearly limitless electricity, the first commercial nuclear plants went online in the US and Europe. For a time, atomic energy seemed unstoppable. Governments invested billions. By the early 70s, nuclear provided over 10% of US electricity. But shadows loomed. The 1973 oil crisis made electricity generation a national security issue. The public grew wary of nuclear waste and accidents. In 1979, the 3 Mile Island incident, a partial meltdown in Pennsylvania, triggered nationwide protests and slowed the momentum. Meanwhile, environmental awareness surged. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring had awakened the public to pollution. Coal-fired plants, once symbols of progress, became villains. Smog darkened skylines. Acid rain fell. The idea that electricity could harm as well as help had taken root. 80s, 1990s. Digital transitions and deregulation. In the 80s, electricity quietly went digital. The rise of computers, modems, and microprocessors reshaped what electricity powered and how it was used. Offices filled with fluorescent lights and buzzing screens. Home PCs entered living rooms. Data, not just light or heat, flowed through power cords. At the same time, governments began deregulating electricity markets. Monopoly utilities gave way to competition. Consumers in some regions could now choose their energy providers. Innovation flourished, and so did complexity. Renewable energy began creeping in. California experimented with wind farms. Germany incentivized solar. The seeds of a new kind of grid, decentralized, digital, and diverse, were being planted. Thousands, 2010s, smart power, green power. As the millennium turned, electricity became smarter. Smart meters tracked usage in real time. Home automation, thermostats, lights, plugs, gave users more control. Solar panels appeared on rooftops. Electric vehicles began whispering onto roads. Global warming became a defining issue. The push for decarbonization shifted investment from coal and gas to solar, wind, and hydro. Massive offshore wind projects launched in Europe. China became the world's largest producer of solar panels. The 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster shook confidence in atomic energy once more, especially in Japan and Germany. Yet worldwide, electricity consumption soared as billions gained access. For the first time, 2020s, the electrification of everything today, the story of electricity, has reached another tipping point. The planet is undergoing what some call the electrification of everything. Cars, trucks, even airplanes are shifting to electric power. Gas furnaces and water heaters are being replaced by heat pumps. Factories are adapting to run on clean electricity instead of fossil fuels. The grid itself is transforming. Instead of one-way transmission from plant to home, modern grids must handle two-way flows. From homes with solar panels, from parked EVs serving as batteries, from offshore turbines feeding coastal cities. AI now helps balance demand and supply in real time. Private companies like Tesla, Siemens, and NextEra are shaping this new ecosystem alongside national utilities and global NGOs. Entire nations, from Norway to Costa Rica, are nearing 100% renewable power. Yet challenges remain. Energy storage, grid reliability, and affordability are still evolving. Developing countries need infrastructure. Political battles over climate policy rage on. But one thing is clear: electricity, once a marvel, is now the foundation of modern life, and it's still evolving. There's a moment in every technological story when innovation leaves the laboratory, the workshop, and the elite, and steps fully into the hands of the public. For electricity, that moment didn't arrive with the first bulb or generator. It arrived when entire neighborhoods lit up, when factories pulsed with current, when daily life itself began to orbit around a new kind of power. That moment was the true revolution. The tipping point came in the early 20th century, when electricity shifted from novelty to necessity. Cities like New York, London, and Berlin had already begun building grids by the turn of the century. But access was limited, often expensive, often unreliable. The first electrical systems served wealthy homes, fancy theaters, and select businesses. In many areas, people still relied on gas lamps and coal-burning stoves. What changed everything was scale. As electric companies grew and standardized, prices dropped. The spread of alternating current, championed by Tesla and Westinghouse, allowed electricity to travel farther, meaning it could now reach beyond city centers. Utilities began laying cables through suburbs, then into the countryside. More people connected, more infrastructure was built, demand exploded, appliances accelerated the shift. When electric irons, fans, and radios hit the market, consumers didn't just want electricity, they needed it. Suddenly, having a plug in your home meant access to entertainment, convenience, even social status. Manufacturers like General Electric and Westinghouse didn't just sell machines. They sold a new way of life, marketed with slogans like "Live better electrically." The workplace changed too. Factories became more productive and safer with electric motors replacing steam power. Office work transformed as typewriters, adding machines and fluorescent lights took over. Electricity didn't just extend the workday, it redefined the nature of work itself. And then came communication. Telegraphs had already proved electricity could carry messages, but the telephone, and later radio, brought voices and sound into homes across continents. Broadcasts connected millions in real time. In 1938, when Orson Welles read War of the Worlds over American airwaves, terrified listeners believed it was real, proof of electricity's new cultural reach. Perhaps the most overlooked transformation was how electricity changed time. With lights, people were no longer bound to the sun's schedule. Shops stayed open late, cities buzzed 24/7. Even the rhythms of sleep, family dinners, and public events began to shift. Electricity created a new tempo for modern life. Faster, brighter, busier. Of course, this revolution wasn't universal or immediate. Rural areas in many countries lagged behind. It wasn't until programs like America's Rural Electrification Act in the 1930s or post-colonial infrastructure campaigns in India and Africa that broader access became possible. But as wires spread, so did the promise of participation in modern society. By mid-century, electricity had woven itself into the fabric of human civilization. It wasn't just a tool, it was a condition, a foundation. From light and heat to sound and motion, the average person's day had become powered, enabled and regulated by the electric current humming behind their walls. The revolution wasn't loud. There were no protests in the streets, no great speech declaring victory. But it was total. Quietly, steadily, electricity reshaped everything, not by demanding change, but by making the old ways obsolete. In today's world, electricity is no longer a marvel. It is an expectation. We plug in, switch on, and scroll endlessly without a second thought. But behind that casual dependence lies a remarkable story of evolution. Over the last 2 decades, electricity has undergone a transformation as profound as its original discovery, not just in how it's made or used, but in how it connects every corner of modern life. One of the most striking shifts has been in how we generate electricity. The fossil fuel era that dominated the 20th century, coal-fired plants belching smoke into the sky, is gradually giving way to a cleaner, smarter grid. Solar panels now glint on rooftops in cities and villages alike. Massive wind turbines stretch across plains and offshore coasts. In some countries like Denmark and Iceland, renewables already supply most of the national grid. This diversification is no accident. It's driven by both innovation and urgency. Climate change, rising fuel costs, and global policy shifts have pushed governments and corporations to rethink energy. In the past, electricity came from a few centralized plants. Today, it might come from your neighbor's roof, a battery pack in your garage, or a field of mirrors tracking the sun in the desert. At the same time, the smart grid has emerged. No longer is power just sent in one direction, from plant to home. Now, electricity flows both ways. Smart meters track consumption in real time. AI software predicts demand spikes before they happen. Some homes even give energy back to the grid. This decentralized model is reshaping the role of the consumer into something new, the prosumer. Our devices have changed too. Light bulbs aren't just brighter, they're efficient and intelligent. LEDs use a fraction of the power of older incandescent models and can last up to 25 times longer. Many are now internet connected, changing color and intensity with a tap on a smartphone. Appliances have followed suit. Refrigerators can send maintenance alerts. Washing machines adjust their cycle based on the electricity rate of the hour. Heating and cooling systems respond to occupancy, weather, and your personal habits. Electricity isn't just a background service anymore. It's part of an integrated, adaptive lifestyle. Meanwhile, entire industries are shifting. The rise of electric vehicles has challenged the century-long dominance of gasoline. Companies like Tesla, Rivian, and even legacy automakers like Ford and Volkswagen are competing to electrify mobility. Charging networks stretch across highways and cities, and as battery technology improves, airplanes and ships may be next. At a larger scale, energy storage has become the holy grail. Solar and wind are abundant but inconsistent. Storing excess energy, whether in lithium-ion batteries, molten salt, or even hydrogen, is the key to a truly renewable future. Progress is steady, but challenges remain: cost, scale, and safety. Amid this innovation, ethical and environmental concerns persist. What are the human and ecological costs of rare earth mining for batteries? How do we ensure access to clean electricity in the global south? Can we prevent smart systems from becoming tools of surveillance or economic inequality? Despite these tensions, one truth stands out. Electricity is more embedded in our lives than ever before. From the most advanced hospitals to the most remote villages gaining power for the first time, the electric age continues to deepen and expand. The lines that carry current are now the veins of global civilization, and they are growing smarter, cleaner and more complex every year. This is not the end of the story. It's a new phase, one that brings new questions, new possibilities, and a future more electrified than ever imagined. To grasp the true legacy of electricity, we must imagine a world without it, a world not dim, but fundamentally different. No glowing screens, no global communication, no operating rooms, no clean water systems powered by pumps, no refrigerated medicine, no internet, no artificial light after dusk. The absence isn't just inconvenient, it's inconceivable. Electricity didn't just change life, it redefined what life could be. Before it, human activity was bounded by nature's rhythms, by the rising and setting sun, by the limits of muscle and flame. After it, the world expanded. People worked longer, learned more, moved faster, and dreamed bigger. Cities grew upward and outward, powered by elevators, traffic lights, and mass transit. Rural communities connected to wider networks. Electricity broke the boundaries between day and night, near and far, local and global. Its impact rippled through every domain. In science, it enabled new discoveries in physics, biology, and chemistry. In medicine, it led to X-rays, MRI machines, and life-saving equipment that could monitor, scan, and revive. In industry, it revolutionized manufacturing, shrinking tasks that once took hours into moments. In homes, it gave birth to modern comfort, convenience, and connectivity, the foundation of the digital age. But perhaps its most profound legacy lies in the way it reshaped our expectations. Electricity didn't just offer new tools, it changed the standard. We expect light at the flick of a switch, power when we plug in, the internet in our pockets. This invisible force has become the infrastructure of thought, innovation, and even imagination, and it has laid the groundwork for everything that followed. The microprocessor, the smartphone, artificial intelligence, clean energy transitions. Every digital leap traces its roots to the electric revolution, not as a single event, but as a continuum of breakthroughs built atop wires, coils, and current. Yet for all its influence, electricity remains paradoxical. We depend on it utterly, yet rarely see it. We speak of it in terms of devices, not forces. We touch its glow, but not its essence. Its greatest triumph, perhaps, is how seamlessly it became part of life itself. This is electricity's legacy, not just the machines it powers, but the civilization it sustains. If electricity revolutionized the past, it may completely reimagine the future. As we stand at the edge of a new technological frontier, the question is no longer whether electricity will power our lives, but how far it will take us. One of the most promising trends is the continued rise of decentralized energy systems. With advances in solar, wind, and battery technology, neighborhoods and even individual homes are becoming miniature power plants. Microgrids are emerging, independent, localized networks that can operate with or without connection to the main grid. In remote regions, they offer energy independence. In cities, they add resilience in the face of blackouts or climate disasters. Energy storage is advancing rapidly. New battery chemistries, solid-state, sodium-ion, even organic flow batteries are being explored for higher capacity and safety. These will be essential as the world moves further toward intermittent renewable sources. In the near future, your electric car could double as a backup generator for your house. Meanwhile, wireless power transmission, once the dream of Tesla, is making a cautious comeback. Though still in early stages, researchers are exploring ways to beam electricity short distances using microwaves or lasers, potentially revolutionizing how devices, drones, or even satellites are powered. And then there's AI and automation. Intelligent grid systems will soon manage power in real time, balancing supply and demand, predicting outages, and optimizing energy flow without human input. Electricity will not just be delivered. It will be managed, learned, and customized. We may even see electricity take us off-world. Plans for lunar and Martian habitats rely heavily on electric systems, from solar arrays to life support. Tech, the same clean, adaptable energy that transformed Earth, may now fuel our expansion beyond it. But with all this comes new challenges: energy equity, data privacy, geopolitical tensions over rare minerals, and the environmental footprint of even clean technologies. So what do you think? Will electricity empower a greener, more connected world, or introduce new forms of control and inequality? Could your home someday generate, store, and trade power like a digital currency? Let us know in the comments what excites you most. About the future of electricity, what part still worries you? So from the curious sparks of ancient amber to the smart grids of the 21st century, we've traced a journey that rewired civilization. Electricity didn't just power machines, it powered change. It lit our cities, connected our voices, and now it's shaping the future in ways we're only beginning to imagine. And yet, much of this story remains untaught. The rivalries, the forgotten inventors, the political struggles, hidden in the shadows of glowing bulbs and buzzing wires. Thank you for joining us on this electrifying journey through time. If you found this video insightful, please like it. It really helps more curious minds find our work. Share it with someone who still thinks Edison invented it all. Comment below with your thoughts, especially about where electricity might go next. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the histories that shaped our world and our future.